Now finally, we'll see how spacing is done in text. Now we might have heard these terms padding, spacing, all that, but then if you're wondering why do I hear this again and again, margin and padding and table, margin and padding and all these elements, and again there's a text spacing. See, when you just do these simple tutorials, I mean, it might look like all these are not required. A simple padding or margin somewhere would be enough. But if you want to make a enriching experience in your website, then obviously there are some edge cases where you would need this. But then if I actually look in the details, you would know that these are all required. We'll just see in a moment. Now there's something called a text indent. Now the text indent, what it does is, I'll just show you the current state. So this is the current state. Let me reduce the size a bit. And let me take all this transformation. So text indent, I'm gonna give 50 pixels. See, the indentation only happens in the first line of the text. So 50 pixels is the indentation that was given. But if you think of padding, well, I'll give you the padding value here. So we have the same div class. I'm going to give the padding to the div now. I'm going to give 50 pixel. Let's see what is the difference with padding and the indent, because they both sound the same, right? It's better to know the difference. So when you do padding, the padding happens for the whole element, the whole div element, which means for every line it will happen. So in terms of padding, it doesn't look for line, it pretty much looks for the space. So the whole space is being indented or padded for 50 pixel. So that's the difference between padding and the text indent. Then we have something called letter spacing. I believe 10 pixels is huge. So this spacing between each letters is what it does. And that's what letter spacing is. Shall we keep this to 1 pixel? Okay, this looks nice. Shall we make it 0 pixel? Again, this is also better. So we have something called word spacing. Now word spacing, what it does is it looks for the words, the spacing between the words. So I think 0 is the default, by which it means there is some amount of spacing that's happening. So I gave in minus. Okay, before that, let me just give this in a plus value. So when I gave 30 pixel, this size, see, just look at it, this and this and this, it's all the same. It's all 30 pixels. So the spacing between the words is 30 pixel now. But when you just make it 10 pixel, it's decent. But I want to try a minus value so that it overlaps. I mean, we don't want to do this for any reason, but I mean, if you want your users or visitors to check their eye, probably you can do a April Fool with this. So that's word spacing. We already saw letter spacing, and then let's try a line height. Now what line height does is, line height, as the name says, it is pretty much the height of each line. So I believe I gave a very short value. So by default, I think it comes around 15 pixels. No, yeah. So let's try to increase that to 24. So this is the height of each line. So 24 pixels, each height of each line. This is something you also could notice in the Word editor, your MS Office editor, that you could see that. So this is the line height. Line height, you could also give less values, like say 2. So I believe 1 should be the default value. No, I think it should be somewhere around 1.5. Now this 1.5, 1 and 1.5, these are all related terms. I don't think this is related to any pixels or inches. Finally, there's something called white space. Now, before I give you the white space value, let me just disable this by commenting it out. Okay, and also remove this so that we have a better experience. Okay, now we have this, right? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this without. So it's here. Let's see what happens if we give wrap. See, I'll tell you the difference. I'm going to disable it again. Now the browser is trying to reach the content till here and then wraps the content to the next, to the next line. Okay, so the browser is trying to do that. Let me try to remove this div class. Let's see what happens. So even then the browser tries to achieve a certain limit, and after that it tries to wrap it to the next line. Now when you apply this property, which is white space no wrap, it doesn't even wraps to the next line. This keeps extending. If you notice, the div pretty much ends up here. Okay, but the text keeps on going. There's no wrap. I mean, even if I try to add more text to it, it won't wrap at all to the next line. See, we'll just constantly go to its right. So there's no wrap. So that's what no wrap means.